I think we should begin with this bit here, and this is all the stuff I've cut down in the garden on the big cutback that I've done. Did it yesterday. Quite a nice day it was yesterday, and today is proving to be another good day, which surprises me. Cold, but okay. Now this, although it looks quite a large pile, is only a fraction of what I took out. I've taken a lot more stuff out than you can see here. There's perennials in there, grasses in there, everything chopped back. Now, I still feel it's a little bit early, for me anyway, to be cutting back. But I decided to go for it. And this is what's left. Now, some of the stuff has been taken to the local tip to be recycled, and then some of it's gone onto my own compost heap. But the majority is still here. And to be quite honest with you, it's not much use on the compost heap, because all it's going to do is break down and provide more of a soil conditioner than any nutritional value. So I'm going to burn some of it. There's just too much to put on my compost heap. My compost heap isn't big enough to take all this. So what we'll do is we'll have a little wander around the garden and see how I got on. So I think we'll start with this bit, and this is the Calamagrostis border that you're looking at, which is the far end, that section there. That's Calamagrostis area. And then this one here, this is the end of, or one end of the long border. You can see, all gone. So let's have a little wander down, see what sort of damage we did. We'll view it from what I always say is my favourite view of the garden. And it still is, even at this time. It's still a good view, that. Looking very nice indeed. And you can now see the gap between the floating deck and the cloister pergola. The little gap there, you can see that now. And that's the bit I'm gonna be looking at in the next week or so. Or a couple of weeks anyway. So, just went around yesterday, and the aim was just literally to chop it down. I don't mess about anymore. I used to faff around, chopping stuff down and then going through the border, raking through, finding anything that I wanted to keep, any seedlings that is, that I would wanted to keep. And it used to take forever. So as I've got older, I've got into the habit of just doing it, just getting on with it. Because we all tend to just faff around. And this is the orchard border here. So it had a load of miscanthus in it. Not there now, gone. And this perennial wallflower. And one of the best in my opinion, it's Erysimum bowls mauve. A very nice one indeed. But you've got to sort of work at that to keep it going, because it can be a very short-lived perennial. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. The Buddleia, which is the Bressingham Bountiful, is still looking good. It still has something to offer the garden. And I like that. I like it a lot, this one. I expected it to lose a few of its leaves, well, most of its leaves, but they seem to be hanging on. So, bit of a bonus, really. Quarry tile path is a bit of a mess. I have to be careful on there at the moment, because it is very slippy. So if you remember, there was quite a few clumps of Calamagrostis acutiflora Carl Forster grass. And remember, it's sterile. I know I always say this, it's sterile. So if you're trying to get into grasses and you don't know what to start with, try that, because you won't have any problems with it. No worry of it self-seeding. The green you can see, they're alliums, Allium summer drummer. Now if you're going to get Allium summer drummer, just be careful. Be careful, because it does spread around a lot and it self-seeds as well. But the bulbs do split quite regularly under the ground, and you end up with massive clumps of it. So if you don't want too many, you need to be on top of that and get rid of it. Dig it out, take them away. Just look after them. Now, although I didn't do any weeding while I was doing the cutback, I decided that I would look at certain plants that, to be honest, gone past the shelf life, and this is one of them. So this one is a euphorbia called Black Pearl, and I knew a month or two ago that it was actually at the end of its life. It's going to have one last little show, as you can see. they will be flowers, all them green ones, but lower down in that section there, they should be looking nice and healthy, and they're not. They're looking a bit ropey, and I know from experience that they're not going to come to anything, not to anything much. And that's one thing I find with this one, with the Euphorbia Black Pearl, it tends to do that. It doesn't live for very long. Always disappointing, because it's such a good euphorbia. But it needs to come out, and I can't see me leaving that to actually flower, because it's taking up some valuable space that would be better served with another plant. I don't know what, but it's time for it to come out. So one thing I did do yesterday was I messed about with that shrub. It was looking good, but I decided I wanted to chop it down a little bit and not take over so much in this area. So by doing that, what I've done is I've actually made it want to come out from those sections. So each one of those will be a leaf, and there's sections either side where it will be. You can see either side of that where it's going to be a leaf, well, more of a stem. Leaves to start with, and then it'll produce all the stems, and it'll grow again. It'll be getting taller. I didn't want it to become too tall in that section. As you can see there, that one there is the parent plant. The one I've just been talking about is the cutting of it, and that's quite tall. And I didn't want the same on this side. I wanted to be able to see out from the house, so we've chopped it back a bit. Now, the one thing that I said I was concerned about when I do the chop back is these Deschampsias, and this one is one called Gold Tow. Very nice one. So that's Deschampsia cespitosa Gold Tow. And I sort of favour this one and another one. And I was worried that if I did it too early, that we would have a problem with this one. But they're looking quite good. There's one or two I've spotted in there which were youngsters that I put in as seedlings last year, or not seedlings, little splits to be quite honest, which is the one there. And the one next to it appears to be the same, but it's got a bit of green in that one. So I'm not too worried about that one, whereas the one on the right, I don't think that'll come back, but I'm going to leave it because you'd be quite surprised how these grasses will perk back up once we get some heat on them. So we'll leave that alone. Another thing I noticed yesterday was we've got a couple of these rose buds. They're only tiny. They're never ever going to come to anything. They're spent really. And that's a rose called Lilac Bouquet. So it'll never come to anything. We'll just leave it alone. So the garden is looking a very, very bare now. Very bare indeed. It always gets Kathy at this time of year when I do this. She says the same thing every year. Oh, it looks so different. Well, of course it does. I've chopped everything out. It was never going to look the same. Going back to this area, this is the area where I've been deciding whether or not I need to make some changes. And I do want to make some changes in this area. I'm thinking seriously of moving the cow drinker back towards the floating deck. Now, if I do that, then I've got to remove a couple of well-established plants here. There's a grass there, and then there's a eupatorium at the back of that, and I would need to move them. I said I wanted to take that metal structure away anyway. I didn't feel it was really offering anything to this section. It wasn't doing it any good whatsoever. So when I was looking yesterday as I cut back, I thought, maybe I can put that cow drinker to the back and sit the back of it against that there, so it'll sit there instead. Now that'll take a lot of work because I have to dig it out, and it don't look like hard work, but believe me, that'll take some doing. And I leave it at the same level. I won't dig it any lower than it is. I will actually sit it up so it just sits against them. I can't go any lower because the posts that you're looking at there are into the ground by about 6 inches or something, so I'm not deep enough really to be able to dig the ground out, so we'll just leave it as it is. But yeah, that's a possibility at the moment. I'm not committing to it, certainly not on camera, but it's likely I will do it and change that appearance completely, and hopefully that'll be good. Now Spud, the black cat there, you can see he had a bit of a shock yesterday when I did this. He didn't know what had happened, And I think he kind of got lost. Even though you can now see through the whole garden, he was definitely confused. He'll get over it. Now the birch, the silver birch, had some grasses at the bottom there, around the section there. Acanacloas were around there. They're now cut down. A bit early really for acanacloas to be cut back in my part of the country anyway. But they'll be fine, they'll be fine. I usually wait till I see some signs of fresh growth at the bottom of them, but there isn't any yet, but I think we'll be okay. It's looking good though, I just like that. I do really like the look I've got with that sheep bale feeder and the plant inside it. It just looks great. Let's try and get the sun out of it. It's very bright today. I was surprised, I thought it was going to end up very cloudy, but suddenly it's all broken, it's gone. It would have been a good day to get into here again, but I don't really want to push it. Yesterday was quite a bit of a day, because I was doing a lot of bending over. My back was already playing up before I even started it, but the back of my legs now are starting to suffer. Because I haven't used them for that long, and I've had to bend down, chopping things back. And it gets you the next day, and it has, it's got me. It's looking good. We'll look at this one here. Now this is the boardwalk border. Everything's down. Everything I wanted down is down. I had a little play about with the first of the dip pulls, which is this one here that you can see on camera. The furthest one away, that one. I've taken some of the leaves out, looking better. But at the time, I didn't want to get caught up in taking those leaves out, because I've got the dustbin lid to take out, and I've also got this one to take out, and I didn't want to mess about. I wanted to get on with it. I wanted the whole job done in one day. As I said, I can do that. I know this garden very well now, so I know what's possible to do in one day. It's looking good. It gives you a chance to look at the structures as well. Once you've actually done this cutback that I've done now, it gives you a chance to reevaluate everything you've put in. And is it working? Does it work? Can it be improved? Everything can be improved, as you know. I'm always changing things for the better. I make the odd mistake, end up putting things back to where they were, but generally I get it right. Just a bit of faffing around. The owl border, I actually, which is what you're looking at now, I actually did that last week. I spent one night, it took me about an hour and a half at night, and I cleared that out just to give me a fighting chance yesterday. And it's looking really nice now. Let's show you the owl. There you go, lovely that, I love it. It's a bronze owl, a bronze cast owl, sits 10 foot in the air. Bought that from Hampton Court Palace Flower Show many years ago, when it was still called Hampton Court Palace Flower Show. It's not anymore, not called that anymore. The China Cloa rubra here looks fantastic now, look at that. Just absolutely fantastic. And with the sunshine side lighting it, it looks even better. I said before, we get lots of different colours within this grass. And it's a fantastic grass. I can't say any more about it. It's just fantastic. And I've got several in the garden. There's another one here. And then one. Hey, up there goes Spud having a run. Anyway, so let's go up the steps. So if you look at the garden from here, you can see I've done quite a lot of cutting back. A lot of the stuff is now gone. Let's pan around to this section here, show you. So this is the other side. This is the south side of the long border. Well, I call it the south side of the long border. And then it's dissected, as you know, with the floating deck there. And then the north side of the long border is the other side. But basically, it's the long border. And then the cloister pergola, that's all been cleaned out now. I'm having a little think about the cloister pergola, because I think it could be better with the planting. The planting's not brilliant. It's not bad, but it's not brilliant. Oh, one thing before we move on. Once everything's been taken down, this is when box edging starts to come into its own. The structure of it, the evergreen structure, always works. And it does look good. This one's curving round. I deliberately did this, and I think it looks good. But going back to the cloister pergola, yeah, there's things that could be improved. I've got some ferns in here, and Oh, I can't remember what else. Lots of little bits and bobs going on in here. Could it be better? Yeah, everything can be better. But I think I'm gonna leave this section alone. But I'm thinking about this section here in particular. It does have a grass in there, quite a nice miscanthus, and another miscanthus to the left there, which is a taller one. And I've put some new perennials in there, but we ought to give it a little bit of time, because I'm a bit of a one for moving things before I should. But I am gonna consider a few changes. I don't know what yet. Yeah, the sheep feeder looks great. It just offers something different. I don't need them in the garden, but they're there to highlight what's inside of them. In this case, that betula, that silver birch, and the grasses that I finally settled on. Because remember, I tried several different plants around this, and I didn't feel that any of the other ones worked. Now, one thing I am going to move, I've got this like little plant pot I was given by Sam at Bardney Manor. She gave me this, and it's really just a cast pot, but worked in with a manor. It looked good. But what I have got in here is something called Rhodiola rosea, and it's been in here for 3 years now. And to be quite honest, I should have took it out 2 years ago and put it into a different place in the garden. But it's always been in here. This year, I fully intend to take that out. In fact, let's just have a look. Yeah, it's very... I was just wondering whether it was still alive, and it is. And you can tell that by just grabbing it like that, and you can feel it's solid. So that's okay, but we need to move it. And I need to remember that as well. That fern's looking good. Some ferns are evergreen, and some are not. I've got some in this garden, as here, that are not evergreen. That one there, you won't think that'll come to anything, but that's Dre's dagger, and it looks fantastic. And then I've got another one in there that you can't see at the minute, and that one's Silver Ghost. Is it Silver Ghost or is it just Ghost? I'll look it up and put it on the screen. But there's another one there that's fantastic. So from here, when you look through, you can see the other cow drinker. And I know it looks quite nice, but I just think I can improve the look of that section by moving it further back, which then will give me a section in front of it that I can replant. I can plant it back up and it should look fantastic. You won't believe it, but that's probably going to take at least half a day, if not 3/4 of the day, to move that. I mean, basically, you can't see it properly, but basically it's the same as this one. And I've got to dig it out, and it looks like that'd be easy work, but believe me, it's not. Because you've got to dig all that soil back out. But we'll get there. So I will have a little look at this area as spring kicks in, and we'll sort of see whether we can improve it. Sometimes you can't improve it. Sometimes you just got to leave it alone. And I'm not very good at that, am I? At leaving things alone. Well, that's a nice view. That's always a nice view, that. This is why I actually built this, to get that view. It kind of focuses your mind, or focuses your eyes into that section, makes it look better. So the two posts are forcing you to look down there. Another little design trick, really. So we'll walk up here and see what's going on up this half of the garden. Little changes to make here. This miscanthus was taken out. It's one of the giganteous types, called Jubilaris. It's gone now, but that won't be long before... Let's have a look, see if there's any new leaves. But it won't be long before it's actually starting to push up new leaves. Can't see any yet. But as I said before, I felt that I've done it a little bit earlier than I should have done. I don't like to do things too early. The one thing that is looking good, again, and I know I always mention the euphorbias because I do like euphorbias a lot. This is Miner's Merlot, and it's looking fantastic. A very, very nice euphorbia indeed. And you can take cuttings of that one. You can. You've just got to wait till May. May is the best time. You can take them before if you put them on heat. But to be quite honest, why not just wait a little bit longer? And then you're guaranteed the cuttings. Well, you're not guaranteed, but the cuttings should be quite successful at that point. Now the other euphorbia, and I'm pleased that it's at this stage at the minute, is this one here. And this one's purple and gold. And I said, this is one of the parents of I think is one of the parents of my own Malachi. And it's looking fantastic. It's got some fantastic colours. At this time of the year, this is definitely the better one out of the two. Out of this and Malachi, it's definitely the better one because it has a lot more purples in it. As I said, it's called purple and gold. The gold bit refers to the seeds, or the flowers rather. So we'll show you those once they come into effect. But look at that. So it's really nice, and it's a fantastic plant. Not as hardy as a lot of them. So I will be taking some cuttings in May, which would be great. Now, I've been collecting begonias. I keep telling you this, collecting begonias. I'm terrible for it. And this is a really nice one. I won't put the name of this one up because I'm going to show you the label. There we go. So it's Begonia Abendglut. And it's a real nice one. Where did I get that from? Oh, I bought it from Beth Chatto. I go to Beth Chatto's for a lot of my plants. Let's rub that off for you so you can have a look yourselves. But as I said, I go to Beth Chatto's for a lot of my, or I send away for them and I visit from time to time. A long way down from me, it's down in Colchester, so it's a good 3 hours from here. But definitely worth it. If you've got time, get on to the internet and look up the website. They sell plants online and you can buy them, they'll send them to you. And she has fantastic plants. Okay, she's no longer with us, but her granddaughter runs it now and she does a good job of that. Here's Malachi, and this is why I think it's related to purple and gold. This one is definitely bluer in the summer. In fact, it's a very, very nice blue. Well, a blue-green, that's how you have to look at it. But the leaf is better than the one I've just shown you. The purple and gold. A lot better, but this one does have red tips. Now, a few Euphorbia wolfenii have this same red tip. I'm sure it comes in the DNA from some other cross that's been done over time. But this was a chance seedling, and what I like about it is it has a good structure, as you can see. Let's go back so you can see that structure. Right, let's come to this side, get you a better view. There you go. So it has a nice structure, but you can see from that how blue that's going to be as opposed to purple and gold. Totally different, but purple and gold at this time of year is unbeatable in my opinion. Oh, okay, shouldn't have said that, should I? Because mine as Merlot is probably better, but for a wolfenii, I like purple and gold at this time of year. Really nice. So things are coming back quickly now, and somebody pointed out that I have got lots of green in the garden, and I have, but remember, I was talking about grasses. I'm not talking about little bulbs and early season flowers. I'm not into them. I'm really not into them at all. They're not for me. They used to be, but I don't mess about with stuff like that anymore. I go for the big stuff. This is what I'm into. So you won't find lots of bulbs around my garden. You won't find lots of daffodils, anything like that. Probably not going to be in here. There were when I came. I pulled a load out. Didn't want them. I like this type of gardening. This is my type of gardening. So yes, I have got different bits and bobs. And I have got a lot of plants I don't show you because they're not worth looking at. Anyway, go to this section here now. Now, I took off the seed heads of this Cortaderia richardii, which is the grass. I took them off about a week ago. Relatively easy to do as well. They've gone, so now we shall just wait for the new ones to start pushing up. Okay, it's too early yet. It's only January, remember. January the 2nd as I'm filming this. But within this, they will already be setting. Now, I've not had a look. So let me see if I can find one that will be. Yep, this one here. This one that I'm holding at the moment, that one. That will be a flower head. Or a flower, or a seed head. It will push up in spring and produce me a flower, and there'll be lots of them this year. It's been in 4 years now, so it's doing really, really well. Next to it, we've got this little begonia. This is Bressingham Ruby. Not as ruby as it should be. It's not had the right conditions, to be quite honest. Not been cold enough for it. But that one is Bressingham Ruby, and a very nice one. Not everybody's taste, these begonias, because they're a bit boring for most people. I love them. Absolutely love them. That's looking good still. We'll be doing some more work on this year, this cloud pruning. It's getting there now. just looking at it. When I first started, I had several little clumps there, and that's been made into one big clump now, as have the other ones. And over time, they will become even bigger. I will make them even bigger. It's all time with cloud pruning. Just got to give it time. There's Caffey's Harbour Seat up there, and everything's been cleared out of here. But as you can see, there's evergreen stuff in there. This is what I like. I like the evergreen stuff. And they're doing quite well. There's not a lot else in here at this time of year. Nothing's growing yet. A few bits are trying to start. Got bits and bobs in here. We've got that digitalis there. Those green clumps, they're starting. And the other thing is the helibos. Most people will have orientale types. I have these types, these green types, which most people find boring, but I like them. This Pittosporum's brilliant, this. I think a lot of the garden designers have got a bit snobbish over them again. These used to be in vogue if I go back 20 years ago. Now I'm hearing them saying that they find them boring and the pudding-like. Yeah, of course they are, but they offer something to the garden. This is Pittosporum Tom Thumb, and it's wonderful. I love it. I've always liked this one, and I've not really clipped this one at all since I put it in. I used to clip these things all the time, but now I leave them alone and I just clip the odd little bit if it's getting a bit straggly. In fact, there's a good pointing case there. That would be clipped back, but I'll leave it. I'll just leave it alone, let it get on with it. There's Malachi, Euphorbia Malachi. Now, can we make out the purple? Yes, we can. Let's do a bit of zoom in. See if we can zoom that in. Yeah, there you go. So you can see the purple tips, which is what I like. And as I've said before many times, won't flower, never flowers. It hasn't flowered for me for 7 or 8 years, and every cutting I've taken has not flowered. It does exactly the same. If that was going to flower, those purple bits would already be nodding the reds over, and that would be a sure sign it was going to flower. But one of its parents, that I believe to be Lambrook Gold, is shy to flower. So I think this has picked up that trait. Won't flower, but I like it nevertheless. I like it because it has this lovely steely sort of greeny blue colour, more blue. I can't wait for that, but let's not wish our time away. You can see it looks naked, doesn't it? So those who visit my YouTube's regular will realise there's a lot missing, a lot of stuff gone, but the green of the evergreens is helping to keep it going. The pine there, that's a pine called Green Tower. I only moved that there in, when did I move it? September, October? I think it's in the wrong place still. But the good thing about evergreens is you can practically move them at any time of year. August being the best time probably, but you can move them at any time of year, and I shall move that. I'm not happy with it being there because it's going to make 10 foot, maybe 15 foot. And I think in time I need to move it. This is a nice Hebe that I don't always show. If you look at that, that's called Hebe Ocraluca, I think it is. It's one of the whipcord Hebes. I'll put the name online. I can't remember exactly. I have the winter forget-me-nots at this time of year. You know, you get inside, you don't come and visit your plants, and you tend to forget the names of some of them. But it's a really nice one. I've got 3 there actually. I bought them as tiny little plug plants originally, but they're starting to come into their own now. Let's have a closer look at them. So there you go. And that's a Hebe, and it gets some white flowers, if memory serves me right. Little tiny white flowers on it. Bit insignificant as far as I'm concerned. I just like the look it has. Looks quite nice. There's a lot of plants in here that's going to look good. Just need time. While we're here as well, we might as well mention this now. You know I like my bamboos, and I like that bamboo. That's a Fargesia, and it's a Robusta type, but it's a clump format nevertheless. It's a faster one, and what I mean by that is it's a faster clumping one because it's called Robusta, and one called Formidable. And you can see from the base, can we zoom in? Because we're usually on top of this one because everything else around it is growing and I can't get close enough. But from here now, you can see the base. You can see all the way. Where's my finger? Where's my finger gone? Here we go. Try and get my finger in to show you. Right. So all the way across, you have to bear with me, it'll come back in a minute. All the way across there is where that bamboo is spreading into, but it's not spreading, it's clumping. So it clumps bigger each year, and it really does annoy me when people say, oh, they're very invasive. They're not invasive. Pack it in, it's not. They're perfect. And that is no exception. And it is now doing what I wanted it to do. So you kind of see where I'm aiming. So the decking behind it, I wanted to be more private there. And that bamboo is doing so well. And it's brilliant. And I have to remind myself not to do anything with it, to leave it alone, because I'm a bit of a bugger for chopping things down and moving them, and as you know, I do it all the time. But we're trying to keep that one, leave it alone, because it's doing exactly what I wanted it to do. I reckon, well, I'm hoping that it'll make another 2 foot this year. It's taller than it actually looks. We're, what, a good maybe 2 foot above it, where I'm stood at the moment. And another sheep bale feeder there, which had that Miscanthus lutaria riparius in, remember, the really tall one. Well, that was chopped down as well yesterday. I've left all the leaves as I said I would. I've created a mulch. This isn't a mulch that's going to give it any nutrition whatsoever. It's really a weed suppressant mulch, and that's its own leaves, so it doesn't hurt you to just leave them alone. Leave them alone, pun intended. Right, let's move to. I'm a bit of a euphorbia fan. I keep mentioning euphorbias, but I want to show you this one. This is Martinii, and I think that Martinii is in quite a lot of euphorbias, because when I see a Wolfenii with red tips, I can almost guarantee that it's got to have some parentage through this. I don't know, I'm not the expert on euphorbias, but I suspect it is, as you can see from that. Now that will flower, although the tips are not nodding yet. It will in time. As it comes up, it'll just nod over and it'll produce its flowers a bit later. I reckon January, February, March maybe, for that one to produce its flowers, and it should look good. So while we're here, let's show you the little plants that I don't show you. So I've a little aconitum, not many. I'm establishing them in the garden, they're not there yet, but we shall get there. That's an aconitum that I think my neighbour brought down years ago when I first moved in. Now I've actually covered some of them by mistake, so there's only 2. Bit sad, isn't it? And then we have the usuals, all the usual types of plants. Very small one, this one. I don't think this is the normal type. I think it's a bit more special, actually. I don't know where I got that one from. Again, probably it was brought to me by the neighbour. I don't know. Oh, that's a cyclamen, by the way. I forgot to say that's a cyclamen. And a hellebore. These are the ones that I don't really grow. I have the odd one, as you know, and that's quite nice. It's not tall enough yet. As I've said before, I keep burying this one, but it's all right. Right, let's go into the nook. See what's going on in the nook. So the nook has remained pretty much evergreen because it's getting lots of protection now, and if ferns get the protection such as this, they tend to hang around a bit more. However, don't be fooled by that, because a good long cold spell could even finish those off, and we would cut that back into its clump and start again. And I probably will do that anyway, because I like them to be a bit fresher leaved. And as time goes on, as you can see, they're looking a little bit worse for wear. But I'm not going to touch them yet until the new croziers, which is the... Let's see if we can find you some. Yeah, there we go. There's some down the bottom. Will it show me? Yeah, down in the bottom. It's not focusing, but that one there, that's one of the new croziers, one of the new leaves that will push up over time, and it'll look pretty good when it does. The Fancy Japonica, this is the one I took from out of that pot at the back there. Took it from that, didn't want it in there, didn't feel it was right, and I still don't think the viburnum that's sat in there is correct. It's going to get a lot bigger, so I'm also toying. We're moving that. I know I only moved it in autumn, But it was a temporary move as far as I was concerned, and it's going to be moved again. So because we've had the cutback, you see, you get a chance to evaluate, reevaluate things, see how they're doing. Now this bamboo, as I've said many times, looks terrible. I really am hoping it ain't going to die on me. I can still see, you can't see it on the camera. Oh, you can. Yeah, there's little bits of green in there. Okay, so that means that that's going to be okay. That's the Thamnocalmus. Looks terrible at the moment, but does prefer protection. Whereas some of the Fargesias that I've got, such as this one here, which is winter black, is still looking very green. But that's the difference in the two. This prefers a little bit more protection, but it'll be fine. It'll come back absolutely fine. So I shall not worry about that one. Let's hope I'm not coming back in 6 months and telling you that actually it died away. It shouldn't. It should be fine. But remember, that was just put here in the autumn. I moved it from the Japanese garden, and hopefully it'll do its trick here and it'll look fantastic. Now the one thing that I did want to show you was this. Can you remember I had this in one of the sheep feeders where the silver birch is, thinking that it was going to look good, and it would have looked good had I put some sort of a barrier around the sheep feeder, but I didn't. So it started crawling out and it was going to spread everywhere. Remember, Robbie Eye is one of the parents of this, and Robbie Eye is a bit of a spreader. Although if you've got a woodland area, it's the perfect choice. But this is cross between Robbie Eye and Martini Eye, the other euphorbia I showed you. But it's so good. It's such a good plant. I really do like it. Now I was told it was a Wolfenii, or I was led to believe it's a Wolfenii, which I'm starting to believe now. Although I find Wolfenii are more clumping, this isn't. And that's down to its parentage. So who knows? The RHS claim it's a Wolfenii. So I guess we ought to listen to them a little bit. Not that I believe everything they tell me. So it's a fantastic one. And it's one called Whistleberry Garnet. And if you can get hold of this one, I would. Honestly, I really would. I've ranted and raved about this one since I put it here. Whereas when we had it in the sheep bale feeder, I was terrified of it because I thought it was just going to go everywhere, which it did start doing. But now, I love it. I really do love it. So yes, you probably gathered, for the people that don't watch my videos regularly, that I'm not a flowery man. I'm not a flowery man. There's a lot more to gardening than just flowers. There's green as well. Green is a colour. I appreciate some people love flowers, but I actually prefer form and shape. Just close this nook door, that's what you can hear. It's a bit noisy, it don't fit perfectly, but anyway. So yes, I'm a more of a green type gardener as opposed to a pretty flower border gardener. There are flowers in this garden, there are. As we get into summer, you'll see them. As we get into spring as well, there'll be a few. Not many, because that's not what I do. I do this type of gardening. I like this type of gardening. And I used to do all the dahlia type stuff, what, 30 odd years, if not 40 years ago. I used to do that type of gardening, but I outgrew it. I wanted to fix myself into a different style. And I like the bizarre and the wacky. So I tend to go for this sort of stuff. And why not? Why not? Let's have a look at this tree again. This is one of the snake bark maples, looking fantastic. As you can see there, it's called Viper. It's a David Eye type. So different to your lower growing types. The Japanese maple types, totally different. But nevertheless, it is an acer and it's fantastic. Now, I've got an hard decision this year to make. Let's step back to show you. Yeah, I've got a bit of an hard decision, as I've just said, and I think that branch you're looking at there has got to go. It may have to go. It may be okay. I don't know. Remember, over time, that is going to get really big and tall and lanky. And it probably is going to be in the wrong place. Let's show you. It's got to make it through here. It's got to get up there through the barbed wire, which it can do, but what's going to happen is it's likely to get some sort of rubbing going on. So it'll probably pay me to remove that one. I'm not going to make that decision yet. I want to see what happens with it. You can see all the buds are swelling, so spring is definitely on its way. Where are we? Let's try and show you some swelling buds. They are there. Not massive, admittedly, not massive, but there they are. Now, one thing I'm going to advise you on this, if you have got acers of any description really, acers have a tendency to split into a Y shape by division. So let's try and explain it better. That's a terrible explanation. So you can see there, I've cut it. Now I had to cut that because it was going in the wrong place, and I will eventually take that off there. For now, I'm leaving that alone. But what happens when you say cut here, right, just bear with me. Right, so this one here, if I was to cut down to that section there, above those two little stubs, they will both produce big, long branches. And that's how it works, and that's how it carries on. And then if I was to cut back one of those lengths as it got longer, again, it would branch out again. So you've got to be aware of that. And here's a perfect example of it. In fact, two perfect examples there. This one here, so it's like a Y. In fact, it's like a catapult, isn't it? What we used to have when we were kids. And that would have made a good catapult there, actually. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. And there's another one here. There. So you can see it splits by division and by pruning. So every time you prune it, again, let's go back again. If I was to prune that section there, these two branches would zoom out and form two more branches, continuing the Y division. So that's what you have to bear in mind when you're doing it. Yeah, so that should be, oh God, no. There's like another crossing here, look. You can see, this is what we're trying to avoid. See that there? That is touching. So the likelihood is, looking at it at the moment, the likelihood is I'm probably going to have to get rid of this one. Where am I? That one there's going to probably have to go. But what I can do, I can be very clever about this, is I can cut it there and it'll shoot off that way, and that'll give me a fresh approach to that branch. Yeah, so I've got to remember that. Now that was okay in autumn, that wasn't happening, that division, or that touching rather, that wasn't there. It is now, because it's growing again, starting to grow. So I'm going to have to deal with that. Hope I'm not waffling on too much. I know I actually came out to show you the cutback, and I was only going to do a 10-minute video, but you know what I'm like, I'm terrible, aren't I? Oh, well, we're here. Another Acer there. Different type of Acer. That's Acer japonicum, that one. But the same happens. Let's get closer. Come on, come with me. So you can see, brilliant example there. There you go. So I've obviously clipped there at some point, and then it sent up this shoot and that one. And if I do it on that one, it'll do exactly the same. It shoot that way, that bit will be gone, and it'll carry on growing like that. What I do when I take them little bits off, I don't like them. So it's doing exactly the same as the Acer I just showed you, the David I type. So bear that in mind when you're cutting them, because you really do need to watch for that, or you could cause yourself a few problems. The Japanese garden. I need to give it time. I must admit, I'm not that enthralled by it, but I want to keep it because I know in time, once those plants grow, it should be okay. But the one decision I have to take is, what am I going to do in this section here? I need to put something back in there. I had toyed with the Pinus nigra, which is green tower that we showed you earlier, putting that in there, but I don't know yet. I really don't know. Anyway, we'll ignore that for now. Now this is a heavenly bamboo, or one of, and I put it here because it's a bit of shade. It requires a bit of shade. And what it's supposed to do is go bright red like that. Now it seems to be doing it now, but it should already be bright red, the whole plant. And I've read up on this particular variety because it is relatively new. I'll put the full name on the screen. It needs sun through the summer. It needs sun to get that ready colour in autumn and winter, and it doesn't get it here because it gets a lot of shade. So what I'm going to do, that is a definite for a move. It's a beautiful little shrub, but needs moving to get the most out of it. So we'll have to look at that. Not much to report in this area, apart from, and as you know, I like my euphorbias. This is the one that I didn't sell the lady who asked to buy it when it was a seedling, because I thought it was something else, and it turned out to be a nice Wolfenii that I think's come through Black Pearl. But it got blown over, didn't it? Last autumn. With those winds coming through, those storms coming through, and you can see it's just, instead of being like that, it's like that. But that'll be fine. I will give it some sort of a support. I will put my foot to the base of it at some point and get it straight again. And I will take lots of cuttings because it's looking like it could be a very good one. But who knows, it might not. It might turn into something rubbish, but you don't know. There's another elder here. This is a different type of elder. And I've only had this one for, let's have a look at the label for you. I'll show you. So let's show you that label. Sambucus Serenade, or Serenade. And it's a lovely one. It's the colours of the leaf that are really nice, and I'll show you that once they start coming out. Now again, this one needs a little bit of pruning. It's new in. It's new in last year. And it requires a little bit of pruning to get its shape right. But I didn't want to do it just yet. I want to leave it alone, let it grow a bit, and then we'll mess about with it. See what we can do, see if we can get it looking good. So, there we go. A little walk around Grassy Bottom after the cutback that I've talked about for so long. And as I said, I think it's still too early for me personally. I like to cut it back at the end of February, or I did like to cut it back at the end of February. The seasons are definitely changing. So I'm having to cut back earlier and earlier. I remember if I go back 30 odd years ago, I wouldn't touch this garden. If I'd have had this one, I wouldn't have been able to touch it till March, because we would be full of snow. And I know some of the new, younger gardeners don't believe that, but we would. This would be full of snow, this garden. There'd be nothing in here. You won't see nothing but snow. But now, it's all changing. All changing. And I like it. I don't like it, and I do like it. And I wish I was around in another 50 years' time to see just what happens to the weather, because we all know we've got a bit of a climate change going on. And irrespective of what you think, I believe it to be a natural phenomena. And it will change again. I mean, remember, way back we used to have a tropical climate in the UK. We don't anymore. Anyway, it's enough of that waffling. What do I know? So we'll look at it from here. There you go. There's the gap that I'm going to be doing something with. Yeah, I'm getting excited actually about that. In fact, before we finish, let's go back for one more look at it. So yeah, bit of rot going on there. You can see the tin's rotting, and I suspect that when I dig it out, the back of it will have a bit of rot as well. But I don't let that worry me. It's going to outlive me, that thing. And hopefully the whole thing, as I said earlier, let's get further back for you, we'll be able to, where's my finger? There it is again. I still ain't got a pointy thing. We'll be able to pick that up, take it to the back there, sit it against the back there and replant it. I don't know how, whether we can have some clever planting. I'm still considering whether I should move it completely out of that way. But I quite like to see it there. I think it'll look good. And then we can make this front border, this section here, we'll have another 1.5 foot, if not 2 foot. But there's quite a bit of moving to do in this area, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 plants in this area that I need to move. This epimedium being one of them. For the person that mentioned epimediums, yes, you cut them back. This is the time. I've already cut this one back yesterday. It was quite big yesterday till I cut it back, but you've got to cut it back because the flowers will be appearing and it would spoil it. You don't need to, I'll be honest with you. I don't know why we do this. I think it's simply to look at some little flowers that nobody comes out to look at. Why bother? Leave it alone. But yes, leave it alone. So there we go. The chop back has happened, and the garden looks a little bit sorry for itself, although it's looking better than sorry for itself, because it has got evergreens in it. I've made sure. And that's how we keep the interest through the year, or I do. And if you like lots of flowers, great, not wrong with that. Spring bulbs, this is the time for them to be coming through. I'm not that bothered about them, as I've said. I don't really put them in here. In fact, I took thousands of bulbs out of the top end of the garden. Snowdrops, there was just millions of them. There was just too many, so I took them out. I did redistribute some of them. We hadn't seen any, but there are snowdrops in the garden that we didn't see. But I'm not really into flowers as such, although I do love them. We all do. It's how we all start. We're all won over by pretty flowers. But as we get going in gardening and we get older, our methods change and our ways change, and we don't want to see the same thing. And I don't. I wanted a garden that is distinguishable for me, and this one is. The grassy bottom is a garden unto itself. So, sorry if I'm waffling on about that. I'm just not a big flower man. We've got an here we go. Look, I do have little flowers. Not a lot, but I do have them. I'm bringing you up here because I just realised I ain't shown you this bit. That's the boardwalk that I showed you from the other side, but this is the back end of it. Looking good. The euphorbia is still there. That euphorbia crossed past area. I'm leaving it. I'm thinking about trimming it back in, but I'm going to let it grow, let it do its thing. It has a lot to offer, but there are a couple of plants around it that need to be moved. So I'll try not to waffle much more, but there you go. You can see the boardwalk in its full glory now. It just looks beautiful. And at this time of year, when everything's cut back, we get to see the structure. And if the structure looks good now, you've won. You're onto a winner. Then you just get your planting right and things will come good. So there you go. I'll talk to you on the next one. Ta-da.